Hi, welcome. I'm Alexa Fleur, co-founder of CritiqueIt, and with me I have Ashley, co-founder of CritiqueIt and CEO.
Hey everyone, good morning.
And we're excited to introduce you to Sharon Russell.
Good morning.
As statewide director of the CalState TEACH program, Sharon is responsible for guiding the direction and vision of the online teacher accreditation program. CritiqueIt has been working with CalState for about 4 years, and we're really excited to show you today our latest build, which is an annotation-connected teacher accreditation rubric. So in this segment, we're going to demo CritiqueIt, we're going to talk about teacher accreditation, and we're going to demo the iSupervision rubric. If you have any questions during the demo, please add them to the chat area. And if we have any time at the end, we'll address them at the very end of the segment. Any questions that don't get addressed, we will put up on our blog and on our partner page so you get the answers that you need. First, we'll start with a demo of CritiqueIt, and that'll be Ashley.
All right, everybody. Yeah, I figured before we get into the details of what we've really been dialing in and working with CalState on, I just want to give you a high-level look at what the tool does kind of in its vanilla form as a LTI plugin. So this is a LTI 1.0, 1.1, 2.0. And with that said here, I'm going to share my screen, theoretically. So you should be seeing right now what looks like an assignment configuration. And we're going to keep this really high level. If you do have any sort of technical accessibility, FERPA, PII, accreditation sorts of questions, feel free to, as Alexa mentioned, ask those in the chat. So what we are is a tool that captures and facilitates robust discussions in your assets, whether those assets be PowerPoints, spreadsheets, videos, audio files. And we do so in a way that models a number of different pedagogies. So we can have a private submission to an instructor. We can facilitate a blind peer review among peer groups. And as we go through, I can kind of call out a couple different case studies and points of application. We're particularly useful in STEM applications as well as blended learning and flipped classroom pedagogies, and I think you'll see why. So that said, I'm just going to go ahead and keep this an open assignment. So the asset visibility is open, the annotation visibility is public. This would be a scenario where you want a particular group of users within Canvas to be able to identify each other and work through some assets that they've uploaded. So in the name of expediency, we've already uploaded a couple things here, and what I'm going to do is jump into what's our most common file format, which is PDF. So here you see a worksheet on complex numbers, and really our very first value proposition is we want to allow you flexibility in having and contextualizing these conversations where you'd like to. So for example, let's say that I actually want to mark this document up as though it were an image, and I want to talk about factoring here. So I might want to look at the continuity of certain variables or discontinuity of certain variables. I've made 4 marks, and to these I'm going to attach an annotation. In this case, text. Now, it's worth mentioning, and there you go. So we can see here on page 1, I have an attached annotation that applies to 4 distinct points in the document. If I'm coming in here, though, and I want to treat this paragraph of text like text, I can also pop through and select text in the document. One thing from an accessibility perspective, this is really only, or usability, I should say, this is really only about a 4-page document, but we've worked with dissertations, with 400-page user manuals for technical writing. As I'm going through and I'm marking this up, this is also keeping pace with me. So this is keeping pace with the document, which is to say it's keeping things synchronized. One of the reasons that's important from an accessibility perspective is I can come in here and I can click through. But if I don't have access to, if I don't have fine motor control or I don't have access to a mouse, I can also tab through and traverse the page that way. Another thing I'll mention is that this works both in a synchronous and asynchronous context, which is to say, if I'm trying to mark up this document early in the morning and my students don't have access to it at night, as you can see, we're able to leave messages. Now, what just populated here is I've got a student online. Morgan's asked me a question. And we use Socket technology, same stuff as that you'd find in Google Docs. And in that context, if we're online at the same time, we can actually have a live conversation. Now, to help Morgan understand that, I can respond with text, which you'll get right away. But you can also see we can leave those same feedbacks with audio or video. Let's say, for example, that I want to record directly from my webcam, give her some context on this division procedure, or maybe I covered that last week and I have a lecture that I want to upload and attach directly into this conversation. Our tool follows a lot of the same notifications, mentions, features that you'd find in things like Slack and online communications, where I can direct comments at the class or at single learners individually. And here we're in a hall of mirrors. You can see me, seeing me, and I'm leaving a video in response to her comment there. And so we go ahead, upload this directly. One thing I'll mention is all of this is happening in HTML5 technology. We do have rollbacks, but by default, we don't use any Flash, which means that this will be portable into any of your mobile devices, mobile computing. That's one thing when we get talking with Sharon here. They are a Apple accredited education system and program, and they have a lot of mobile devices, iPads, tablets, things like that. But I'll save that for Sharon to brag about her own program, because it's pretty cool stuff. So you can see here what we're doing. We're making it easy to visualize, have threaded conversations. I can go through, if I wanted to search this document just for certain questions or particulars. I want to see only annotations that have the word understand in this. I want to be able to toggle certain users on and off, adjust colors if I have a difficulty in seeing the difference between yellow and orange. All of this, the accessibility concerns. So hopefully that gives you a high view of at least what we're doing on a PDF, Word document, spreadsheet, PowerPoint. We also have a lot of engagement with very large artifacts. So this is a large scan, and do you remember how large it is?
This file is 11 feet by 8 feet.
So this is from the Audubon collection. It's a lithograph. And one of the things we've done work with different museums and different museum studies programs where there are very large assets. And let's say, for example, I want to comment on the overall composition, but I also want to get all the way in. I want to get all the way in here and be able to talk about the art of the composition itself or some detail about that image. We can handle this as well as we do because we have adopted the IIIF standard. We've done that for a couple reasons. One, we're a very open standards driven organization. So everything from open annotation, web annotation, global IMS with LTI, and then also IIIF. It allows us to engage very large assets. A number of museums have already adopted this standard, and so it allows us to move directly in and both either adopt those resources directly into our system, or if ad hoc, if you were to upload a large image, we'd treat that as IIIF for you. The last bit to demonstrate, and this is where this becomes really relevant with what we're doing with CalState. This is an example of a student teaching session that's being reviewed. And
all right, boys and girls, what color?
I'm going to go ahead and mute that. So as I'm going through and I'm watching this session, one of the things I can do here is using the same tools. Ubiquity is important to us. If you know how to annotate one document, we want you to feel like you can annotate a number of different documents. I can, good to leave the front of the class every now and again. But this time, when I leave that text annotation, you'll see that that highlights on the document. So I can see exactly where I've effectively created a hotspot. And I'll just leave a couple additional here. Another item here worth commenting. And so all of the same tools apply. I can respond to these, I can search these, I can slow the video up, slow it down rather, speed it up. Anything I'd like to do here. And in the same ways before, this is also dynamic. So my students or that teacher candidate can come in, leave her own annotations, respond to anything I've left. If I want to get a high view of where the activity has been on this video, I can see that with a number of different visualization tools. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we take this really vanilla workflow and work that into the specific goals of CalState TEACH. Here you can see we had another comment come right in here from Morgan again. So I'm going to pass it back to Alexa and continue the conversation, but just so you have a high-level view, that's what CritiqueIt is, vanilla in a vanilla state, and now we get to talk about what sorts of adaptations we've made to fit this particular pedagogy.
Yeah, video annotation is a great segue to you, Sharon. Can you tell us briefly about the CalState TEACH program and about some of the pedagogical considerations that drive your technology?
Well, first of all, we're an online statewide teacher preparation program. That means that our candidates live in every county of California and our faculty live in every county of California. So space and time are obstacles and barriers that we've had to devise strategies to cope with. We are an Apple Distinguished School and an AACTE awarded program for innovation in technology. We embrace technology that enables our faculty and our candidates to create, collaborate, and reflect on best teaching practices and put forward the increase of learning of children. And our social justice goal is to ameliorate the digital divide in schooling. We are a one-to-one iPad implementation program. That means that all of our candidates, all of our faculty have tablets and other Apple devices. And we are now at the point with the unveiling of CalState TEACH 3.0, where our candidates never have to leave their iPad to do all of their work. So they can work anytime and everywhere.
So CSU both purchases technology and does custom builds. What were the goals of teacher accreditation that made a custom build very important in this case?
Well, we wanted to be able to capture evidence of teacher candidates improving their practice in specific scenarios and responding to specific dimensions of teaching, such as context, content, community, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. A tool that provides both quantitative and qualitative data that can be aggregated and disaggregated is extremely valuable for us, both in our continuous improvement process and in our preparation of our materials for accreditation to be reviewed by the state of California and other accreditors.
What were you able to design with CritiqueIt that was most exciting?
The new tool, I Supervise, is extremely important to us and extremely exciting. With it, we have a lesson frame, the capture of video, and an annotation tool that enables deep reflection and communication among our teacher candidates, our site mentors, and our program faculty, both in our preliminary program and our induction program. It allows a closer, more nuanced reflection among the teaching triad.
What new possibilities did working with Canvas open up to you?
So the flexibility of the LMS, of the platform, and the ease of use of LTIs have enabled us to create tools with partners, as well as create curricular materials and integrate them seamlessly into our program portal. Candidates move smoothly and intuitively from CalState TEACH multi-touch books, iSupervision, Google Communities, and Canvas without leaving the boundaries of our portal. No more getting lost in the world of multiple clicks. That we've tried to eliminate the barriers that tools sometimes can create and give candidates a clear working space and a space for everyone to collaborate together in a professional learning community.
We love that. All right, let's see a demo of the iSupervision tool. Ashley?
Great. Well, I'm going to ask Sharon to kind of talk with me through this one, because it's certainly been and continues to be a collaboration throughout the process. One of the things I've been really impressed with generally in working with the CalState TEACH program is how thoughtful they've been about curriculum and usability. I saw one of the questions pop up already about accessibility, and we are going after WCOG 2.0 AA. We do think a lot about that, so JAWS compatibility, screen readers, all things of that nature. And that's also true for the technology we're building here with CalState TEACH. That was probably meeting one. Sharon had said, hey, this needs to work for all of our learners. If this is restricting, then we're not interested. That's one of the major alignments, I think, between the way that we understand technology. Effectively, you've seen the CritiqueIt portion of the tools, but what I want to show you is some of the specific work that we've done to really build out what we call a distributed rubric that allows us to collect really what is a lot of information. It's a lot of information that the state needs, from the different teaching objectives that are being explored, to the proficiencies that the candidates are exhibiting, to the TPEs specific to the state of California that these candidates need to prove mastery and proficiency in order to be accredited to go and teach. So one of the things that Sharon had mentioned is that logistics are difficult. California's a big state. And so we've done initially an integration with Google Maps so that you can type in an address or a school name. We'll get that information for you and help you calendar that time, either for an in-person visit, remote upload, or actually a Zoom meeting. I think I've got, I'll show you a link how we've been working with that. But what I want to do is sort of skim down here. Would you mind, Sharon, talking a little bit about the significance of this kind of section of the rubric here?
Yes, this took about 18 months of faculty time to develop. One thing I want to say about our collaboration with Ashley is that we have a very strong faculty, a very strong curriculum committee, and the faculty design the tools that they believe will support their work. And then as a program director, I try to marry them with a technology team that can build it out for them. We used to build everything in-house, and now our needs are much more sophisticated than a two-people tech team can provide. And so we're very lucky to be working with a team like CritiqueIt that understands pedagogy and works very closely with faculty. And so in California, we have a new set of TPEs. There's only 6 standards, but there are 48 elements. And so the human brain cannot hold 48 elements, but it can hold 6 elements very nicely. And so the faculty took the elements and rearranged them according to these 6 essential dimensions of teaching, that no matter whether you're teaching in California or Australia, these dimensions of teaching will be important to you as a teacher educator. And then out of those dimensions, they created 3 teaching objectives for each dimension. And then under those objectives, we have TPE elements that refer directly to California that then the candidate or the faculty can identify, so that the candidates and the site mentors aren't overwhelmed by the number of elements. They can focus on 1 or 2, but the dimensions and the objectives are very clear. And that's what we all hold in our minds when we're looking at the teaching experience.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's been really fascinating to see the way that these complex objectives for credentialing have been turned into something that's much more digestible for the candidates as well as for the faculty supervisors. So really our objective then was to capture that information in a form that matched the way that CalState TEACH likes to think about things, and then to use the data that we're collecting here to effectively create a handoff back and forth between that faculty and that candidate. So we won't have time to show you the full flow, but I wanted to give you a sense of how this looked. And then let me see here. I wanted to just give you a sense of how this looked. And then you can understand that we take the information that's going back and forth. So that candidate says, hey, this is what I believe that I'm going to be demonstrating in this classroom exercise. This is what I believe my aptitude is. The faculty supervisor then receives those marks, chooses to either show up in person if it logistically is feasible, or capture and upload a video. That candidate would upload a video of his or herself doing the in-class instruction, which is what we demonstrated with the video earlier. And then those annotation tools and this rubric itself can be interacted with. So faculty and students go back and forth. And one of the things that's really cool about this program is that it was really important for the curriculum committee for there to be a kind of a final feedback loop from the candidate, his or herself. And what that means is, so after Randall, one of the curriculum members, likes to say, you've got pregame here, where the candidate says what they're going to be doing. You have game time, which is the actual student teaching event. And then you have a post-game where the faculty and the candidate can go back and return to both actually at minutia within the limit, within the session itself via the annotation tool, and also taking a higher pedagogical level that says, hey, here's the next set of skills I'd like for you to be working on. So we're really excited to see this actually all pair up in a way that makes sense.
Great. Ashley, can you tell us what the special distinction is that sets CritiqueIt apart from other annotation tools?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quite a few of them. We're really focused very specifically on the moment when a student or a group of learners or collaborators arrive at a document. And one of the reasons we're really grateful for partnerships with Canvas as well as with CalState TEACH is CalState TEACH allows us to take our vanilla tool and build it into a workflow. And Canvas allows us to take our tool and distribute it into an objectivist kind of setup learning structure. And both of those things allow us to not have to think about that, not have to try to be experts in areas where we're not, and really nail the annotation experience. And I'm really grateful for that. I think one of the things that makes us special is we're really diligent about only focusing on those things. We also come from a kind of rhetorical, critical background and framework. So as we're coming out and we're looking at pedagogies, we're constantly asking the question, how can technology enable students to own their discourse, to reflect on their discourse, and get the technology out of the way so that we actually don't interfere with the way that faculty or learners actually want to be engaging their digital materials.
And Sharon, same question. How is CritiqueIt different?
So where to begin? There are so many aspects of CritiqueIt that are distinctive. And something I want to underline always is that they're always contemplating the human dimension, so that this is about a human communication among participants. It is warming up the touch, as we say in the online world. So the tool itself, for us, it creates the ability to have multiple participants, what we call the teaching triad, peer review, so that we have the master teacher, we have the candidate, we have the faculty, who can all leave their annotations, and we can mask each annotation so that each participant is looking at it freshly, and then you can have all of the comments together, and you can be involved in a deep, profound, reflective conversation. And the tool itself is elegant and beautiful, quite honestly. I mean, you saw it. There's an elegance to it, there's a beauty to it, and the hot maps and the visualizations help busy faculty key in on the spots that are of importance to the candidate. And then when you add the site mentor, then you have a very powerful map of what's important here. What are the things we need to spend time on? And all of this is an intuitive interface. You don't need to be a technology expert to use it. It's something that aids the work rather than you have to learn the tool before you can do the work, which is an important distinction. Mm-hmm. And all of this changes and deepens what we call the learning-focused process of clinical apprenticeship and the creation of professional learning communities. It enables mentors and faculty to have the three stances of consulting with a new teacher, coaching an intermediate teacher, and then collaborating with a more mature practitioner. And that the ability to reflect in text, but the ability to reflect in an audio or in a video, because then rather than typing something, what were you thinking? You can say, what were you thinking? That was brilliant. Or I have concerns, or, I'm really concerned about that child and why you did this. Could you explain it to me? That, that is much more engaging than typing it out in text and a candidate thinks, oh, I really have made a mistake. So that aspect is so important to maintaining the communication and the idea that, no one is wrong. Everyone is perfecting their craft.
Lovely, thank you. So last question, Ashley, when you think about the future of the technology, what excites you the most?
Well, there's a lot of kind of cool inwords I could say right now. Like I could talk about deep learning and I could talk about AI, but really the thing that's most exciting for me and it generally is continuing to watch the technology disappear. And what I mean by that is, our process with CalState TEACH has been iterative, and I mean that in a way that's not negative. We've said, okay, let's try this. Let's A/B test that. Let's try this. Let's collect faculty feedback. Let's tweak. We do the same thing in shop for our core tool as well. So we listen a lot to our customers. And I think we're successful. I remember there being a really interesting paper that came out of West Virginia University, I think a pedagogist named Ice, by the name of Ice, that had talked about how anxieties about technology actually make faculty feel less comfortable with their subject matter. And that was shocking to me when I first came across that. And so our goal is to disappear, whether that's disappear into a workflow that's been dictated to us by experts, such as Sharon and her team, or help our technology disappear because we worry so much and pace so many circles about UI, UX, accessibility, portability, etc.
And Sharon, what are you most excited about when you think of the future of iSupervision?
Well, so first, as I've mentioned before, the elimination of barriers of space and time to continuous improvement of teaching practice and deeper learning. And the dissemination of this tool among the teaching profession, the teacher education profession, and not just here in California, having this tool in the wide world of clinical practice. I know that there are counseling programs that would love to use something similar to this so that they can, once again, have a third person looking at a novice counselor and providing them with tips on how to improve their practice. And it's not the only profession where coaching is essential to improving your practice and collaborating with others. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm also excited, I don't think we call it iSupervise when we use it this way, but the use of it in peer review, having candidates help each other get better, and children working with each other in collaborative groups to also improve their learning.
Well, if this teacher accreditation rubric would be useful for you, please contact Sharon Russell. And if you're interested in adding CritiqueIt to your LMS, we are having a free pilot special right now. Links will be added to the chat at the end of the session so you can contact and get in touch with all of us. It looks like we have a couple minutes. I'm going to pull a question I can see on the chat. Is there a question you'd like to address? I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I'd like to I'd just mention quickly John Johnston's question. So thank you. Looks like you're from University of Michigan. We have a
peer review, student peer review.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we can get to both of those. These are both pretty quick. So right now, as far as searching annotations across courses, as a student, you can't do that. But as a faculty, you can. We have about 30 vanilla reports that we are able to print out for you to data warehouse however you would like. So with searchability within the assignment for the instructor, and then actually across all of the curriculum that you own in addition to that. So we are subscribers to, I think I'd mentioned open annotation, web annotation. Portability of data is important to us. We export all that stuff out either as CSV or JSON. So you can review that within our system or within whatever sort of data warehouse you have.
So Bob Nash asked, could students also annotate the work of fellow students in peer review?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the settings that we have is very common that I would want draft 1 of an essay to be peer reviewed, draft 2 to be sort of a final graded approach. We can facilitate that all with just a couple different toggles. The other nice thing is you can make that toggle, you can toggle that on and off at any point in the assignment. So if, for example, you had an assignment that you wanted to start peer review, or you wanted to start peer review and then you wanted to close that off and then have just a professional private dialogue between the learner and the faculty, you could do that as well mid-stride. So we're trying to make this as flexible as possible.
Thank you so much for joining us for today. We hope you had a good partner day. Thank you so much, Sharon. It was great talking with you, and thank you.
Thanks, everybody.